Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our ACMW meeting this evening. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out thank you to Jessica, our campus recruiter for JPMorgan, for providing our members with DoorDash codes. So if you have reserved in advance before this meeting, please check your email for those DoorDash codes and select the meal of your choice and enjoy it during the meeting today. Today we have Sarah and Molly here, who are engineers from JPMorgan. They're in the software engineering program, and they're here to talk about their roles and like what they do and how they work as a software engineer at JPMorgan. So before we get started in the meeting, I have a few things to talk about real quick. So sit tight and we'll get started. Okay, so if you guys haven't already, please sign in using the link in the description. It's the router link as usual, so be sure to click that and sign in. Here are some upcoming events that are happening this week in ACM and ACMW. So ACM is having a meeting tomorrow at 5:15 p.m. on Wednesday. They're going over computer hackers. ICPC's general meeting is happening every Saturday as usual. Nothing has changed from that. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Intro to Tech series meeting is going over CSS and HTML basics. So if you guys want to get more involved in that and like web development, be sure to check out that meeting. And then Rowdy Creator is having their meeting on Sunday on the 18th.
Hi guys. So we have MLH Local Hack Day that will be running between October 18th to the 24th. So for more information, you can scan the QR code there. And if you're interested in hosting a workshop for that, you can contact Trey at either Slack or Discord, and his information's at the bottom. And then lastly, we have some internship information. So 2 of the deadlines are actually this month, but the last one all the way on the right is not until December 31st. So that one has the most time. And we have the little QR codes for those as well for more info.
Okay. As a last slide from us, our introduction slides, our next meeting is on October 20th from 5:15 p.m. to 6:15 p.m. And it's going to be on Google Meets, and we're doing writing good code, a workshop, and it's not going to be recorded or live streamed. So if you don't reserve, you won't be able to get into the meeting or be able to watch it later. So be sure to go to our Rowdy events, Rowdy link, and go through there, click the link. Be sure to sign up for that. And we're ready to get started. Okay, so Jessica is our campus recruiter from JPMorgan, and we have Molly and Sarah here to talk about software or their software engineering program and how they work. Jessica, are you ready to present or talk about things?
Yeah, give me 1 second to get my screen all set to go.
All right, let me know when you're ready.
Goodness. Alrighty, I think we are sharing a screen. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Looks good, awesome. So thank you everybody for having us here with you today. Super excited to be partnering with you. And I have 2 amazing engineers that I'm really excited to also introduce you to as well. They are rock stars, and I think you will quickly learn why I think they are rock stars. But I'll introduce a little bit about them, let them introduce themselves too. We're going to do a quick icebreaker as well. And then we'll really get into the stuff that you came here for, right? To just hear their story, hear what it's like, and kind of learn from their experience. So we'll go ahead and click over to the next side. Who we are. Again, my name is Jessica. I am a campus recruiter at JPMorgan Chase in the software engineer program. And then I have as well, again, my 2 amazing women. So I'll go ahead and let Sarah start it off and tell us a little bit about herself.
Okay. Hi, so I'm Sarah, and me and Molly had both joined the company last July in 2019. So we're part of the STEP program 2019 class. So my background before I came into the company was C++ from my university. So I currently work in home lending technology and CCD. And what I do is basically end-to-end development. So I look at everything from the front end to the back end. And I work with Java, so I did have to transition a little bit from what I previously knew. Yeah.
Cool. I'll go ahead and take over from Sarah.
Go for
Yep.
it.
Cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Molly. So like Sarah said, we both joined back in July of 2019. I'm originally from Texas, but I went up to Northwestern near Chicago for school, majored in computer science. Since coming back here, I've been on a team at JPMorgan that's in the corporate and investment banking line of business. And basically our team does administration type things for mutual funds. It's the really high level. We're not going to go deeper. In terms of technologies that I work with, it's mostly C# in the back end, SQL is for the database. And then we're kind of in between MVC and React for the front end. But just like Sarah, it's kind of both ends depending on which part needs to be taken care of for that month, honestly. And then also a little bit, I'm one of the co-leads for SEP here in Dallas. And so I've got my hand in SEP pretty far and can talk about that more later. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. All right, now what we're going to go ahead and do is transition over to an icebreaker. I want to also share that I can see the YouTube live and I can see the chat. It looks like UTSA ACM has said, hello, everyone. I have one person saying ahoy. If you are here and you are seeing this chat, can you go ahead and throw out your name or just say howdy, hello? Want to see that you're in here and available to kind of talk to us as we go through the next bits of pieces. Also want to share too that if you have questions as we're talking and we're doing this live, that I'm happy to be reading these and asking our engineers the questions that you guys have. So it doesn't just stop here. All right, let's see. I'm not seeing anything coming into this chat. Are you guys seeing anything from your side, Tiffany or Stephanie?
I see the chat going, everyone saying hi and hello, Roadrunners. Maybe a refresh?
Okay, I'll refresh. Well, good. I'm glad. I might have to ping you guys in to relay the information over here to me. So we'll go ahead and click to the next slide. So what we're going to do is an icebreaker. So you can see all of these numbers on the screen. 1 through 10, X is not a trick question. It actually is the number 10. So if I can have you please add all of those up for me. And then I want you to put them in the chat and tell me the numbers that you are getting. What are you seeing on your side when you add up all of these numbers together? Oh, I can see that I have access to chat now. I see everybody saying hello. This is beautiful. Adding these numbers up, what do we get? Okay, Jada's thrown in 55. Looks like Blaine's thrown in 55. Oh, hey, Blaine, good to see you. All right. Got a hey Anna in there, Elijah 55. Okay, I like this. I promise you it's not a trick question. The answer is 55. Good job, everyone. But how did you get to 55? That's what I want to know, right? So you see all of these arrows pointing to the numbers. So I'll just share, I do 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5 + 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? I think sometimes other people might do 0 + 10, 1 + 9, 2 + 8, right? I just see Jada saying she's not good at math. I don't know. Everyone seems to beg to differ about that one. Who else? Can somebody else type in there how they got to the answer 55? Blaine, I know you're in here. Tell me how you got to 55. Let's see. Come on, type with those fingers. Let me see. I just went left to right. All right, Emma, that's what I did too. I did the exact same thing. Did anyone else solve it not just normal left? Okay, combos. I added a 1 through 9 and then 10 left to right. Okay, perfect. Let me go to the next page. I'm asking, how did we solve this, right? Because there's actually a bunch of ways for us to do this. The linear way, right? Right to left or left to right. That's the way I do it. But then we have the outside in way, 1 plus 10, 2 plus 9. Maybe we do the inside out, 5 plus 6, 4 plus 7, right? There's a bunch of ways for us all to get to the exact same number. And why is that important? Why are we even going through this test right now? Clicking to the next screen. Why is it important? Because everyone learns different, right? So if we cannot teach each other, we cannot teach each other if we don't engage in our different learning styles, right? And if we can't teach each other, how do we expect to grow? How do you want to learn your information, and how can you tell other people how that can help them grow and help you grow if you don't know how to communicate that to someone else, right? So I've thrown on the board here a few of the other ways that this can happen, right? Visual learners, auditory learners, we're hearing, we're learning that way. Maybe it's tactile, right? By doing it. Hey, I want to click those buttons. I need to click so I can remember. Or maybe it's reading and writing, doodling a little bit, writing your notes, right? Again, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has their own way. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, and the reason why I think it's important to note, is because you get out of experiences what you're willing to put in, right? And you know the style that you're going to receive that information best. So if you know that to get involved and to remember this, you're going to be wanting to do a chat, or you're going to want to take notes, do that, right? We are here tonight to talk to you, to share our experience, and really to give something back so that you get some meaningful tidbits of information. So I do want to encourage you all to please participate. Again, throw it in the chat if you guys have questions for our engineers. But I'm done with my screen share of this, so I'll go ahead and stop that. There's a dog. That's my screensaver. So we'll go ahead and stop that share and just kind of talk like normal. So what we'll go ahead and do first is I'm going to ask both of our engineers a few questions. They both kind of talked high level about what they're doing at the firm, but I want to find out too, before you join JPMorgan Chase, right? You're still in school. Let's go to your senior year. You're thinking about, oh my gosh, I need a job. Oh my gosh, what is happening? How am I going to meet people? Molly, tell us a little bit about what you were feeling your senior year and some of the thoughts going through your mind right before you officially got a job offer with JPMorgan Chase.
Sure, yeah. So I'm sure if you're a senior now, you already feel the pressure. I know I did, starting probably around October, because that's when a lot of the career fairs are. That's when conversations like this are happening. And honestly, that's when consulting did the most recruiting. And so I had friends left and right, like, oh, I'm going with Deloitte, I'm going with McKinsey. And I was like, I don't want to do consulting. And like, nobody's really looking for a June graduate at this point. And so it was kind of scary, and you have to like take a breath, because like from October to June, it's a very long time. Like so much can change from October to June. And so keeping that in mind was probably the biggest thing for me. And then I just applied like everywhere. There will be job postings that are like, oh, 3 to 5 years experience. Apply anyway. Like worst case, they're going to say no. Best case, they're like, oh, we hadn't considered a new graduate, but this is really cool that you want to do this kind of job. And so that was my default. If you're interested in the kind of coding or what the company does, apply, go for it. It'll be good.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's a good idea, right? Sometimes it is important to fish outside in a bigger, right, area. If you put all of your eggs, or you like fish only in that one tiny pond, you're hoping that you're going to catch the one fish. But what happens if all of a sudden we have 5 right different pools, or we're fishing in different areas? You have the opportunity to interview for more. You have the opportunity to ask better questions, and then really find out what is going to be the best fit, right? And I think that's something that's important too, is that I think everybody has a dream company, right? That dream job, but Very rarely is that the first job that you get after you graduate college, right? Or maybe your dream is going to change. Maybe there's a position or something that like somebody is doing that you haven't even heard of before. And that's okay too. There's going to be a lot of different turns that you're going to have to take in your career, right? It doesn't just start when you're 21 or 22 years old, right? You got to work till you're like 65. So I think your dreams are going to change and you're going to get to see a lot of different things happening. But I'm going to throw it over to Sarah. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about kind of when you were looking at different jobs and you found a job listed for JPMorgan Chase in a software engineer program, what were some of the things that you were thinking about as you were like going through the interview process or maybe starting to weigh your companies to consider? What were you thinking about at that time?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so a lot went into that decision-making process of the company and like what I wanted to do. But overall, I think some of the key points I focused on was finding a company in which that I could learn the most and grow myself career-wise. So I got this advice when I was interviewing actually at JPMorgan, and it was basically not to focus on the numbers, like don't really worry too much about the salary, because as a software engineer, like you're going to build yourself up anyways. So I was looking into the software engineer program at JPMorgan Chase, and I was very interested in it because of the mobility it offered, the safety of being in like a big firm, which like, especially during this pandemic, has proved to be like very important to me. And kind of just being part of a bank seemed like really interesting to me. So I specifically am in mortgage, which was something that I was interested in before. So everything just kind of worked out together. And I think when you are looking for a job, like my advice would be to look for something that you're passionate about and that you know that you're going to want to be going to work every day and contributing to something like that. So that was kind of like the things that I was like taking into account.
Awesome. I love that. I think, right, we all have our own motivators and our own things that are driving us forward to make those decisions. And it's not a one size fits all, right? We're all learning differently. We're all seeing the same problem in a lot of different ways. So what motivates one person might not be the same thing that motivates someone else. And that's okay, right? Some people that I talk to, right, when we're talking about the recruitment process are motivated by location. They're motivated by tech stack. They're motivated only by a certain area. I only want to be a mobile developer. And if you don't have that, then it's not for me. Motivated by money, right? That's not a bad thing either. If you find out what motivates you, you know a little bit better how to kind of direct your career and what you're looking for. So again, those kind of conversations are really important to have as you start thinking about the things that you would like to go into. But right, I want to share a little bit more about the day in the life. So you can see we're kind of starting from the recruitment, moving over a little bit, and why I think the software engineer program, as sometimes we'll call SEP or we'll call a SEP. So when you're in the program, we call you a SEP, of why it's a really great opportunity, right? And just to note too, that we also have a software engineer internship. So we'll call you a SEP intern, which is summer. And then again, we have the full-time position too, which is what these ladies are in. And just a quick little asterisk to this, our SEP program is a 2-year program. You are a full-time JPMorgan employee, you get benefits, you get all of that stuff. But the biggest draw to this is that you're not just on a team and then we drop you there and say, good luck. Right, you're actually starting into this program with a whole cohort of other people, similar age, similar background, similar experiences, right? That everybody's feeling nervous on that first day and thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And so there's a lot of things that are built to make sure that you feel successful. So Molly, let's kind of talk about, okay, you got your offer, you're about to start in the SEP program. How are you feeling? And what are some of the things that after joining JPMorgan Chase, you were kind of surprised at, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way? How did you dress on day one? And then how did you end up dressing on day 2? That's always a fun conversation.
Sure. So after I accepted my offer with JPMorgan as a SEP, honestly, like just like the big sigh of relief. So like that was nice to begin with. And then as we got closer to our start date, our recruiters were kind enough to try to connect us with the other SEPs. And there's, I want to say like 45 to 50 that joined in July at the same time Sarah and I did. And so like I kind of already knew that there's like 45 other people walking in July 25th, 2019 that are like, where the heck do I go? And so like that was nice. They had signs up. And yeah, that first day I was dressed in probably like slacks and a blouse. I was like, business. I look good. This is great. And then the next day I was like jeans and a t-shirt. And so that was kind of fun to figure out because it's just like you expect one thing and then you get there and you're like, these are just people. They're just people. They understand what life is. They understand struggles and things like that. And especially having those 45 other 20-year-old, 22-year-olds there that day was especially like, you know, what college did you go to? Like, what major did you have? Like, if you went to the same school, like what dorm did you stay in? Just being able to have those commonalities on day one to make at least like 20 friends, I found super beneficial. And a lot of those relationships I still have a little over a year later, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. I love that. I think, again, anytime you can go in a situation, at least with like one new person who feels the same as you, you're like, okay, there's security numbers, right? I'm not alone in this. And one thing, right, where I share, it's great to also know, right, there is security in numbers and there's going to be other people that you can talk to, is that it's not a guarantee that you're going to be placed on a team with a bunch of other young people, right? There's going to be a possibility that you could be placed on a team with quite a few people who are older than you, maybe old enough to be your parents. And I'm going to go over to Sarah to find out about her first team. Tell me a little bit about that in that situation. And was it helpful then to know that you had like a SEP community to meet? Because right back when we were in person, I'd see her all the time eating lunch. Same with Molly, always, right? They all have their SEP table, their group of friends that they would go to. I didn't quite see them necessarily with people who looked quite a bit older. So I think, again, you tend to gravitate and meet other people. So tell us a little bit about that first team or your team that you were on and how that experience was, right? Being a fresh graduate joining a team like that.
Yeah, so being on a team coming like right out of college is a little bit daunting, but I thought the STEP program was a really great transition from working in projects in school to doing it on a team because they're very aware of your background and the managers are very well educated about it. So I was very welcomed into my team, and even though I had moved from out of state, from California, I had a lot of guidance, and the people on my floor, the people in the cohort that we all interacted with, like everyone was so sweet. So the first impression I had was that it was, you know, it was somewhere where like I really would want to work and see myself in the future. And to also go off of what Molly was saying about how being in a cohort is very fun, and it's a really good experience because you get to bond with people that are going through the exact same point in life that you are. And I was really blessed to have a bunch of people that I met who like I still talk to like every day right now. So going through the entire experience, you develop a lot of bonds between the people in your cohort, the people in your team. They become like family to you. So great experience overall.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. And I think that's what it's about, right? Is finding meaning, not just in the position that you're doing, but also like finding meaning in your experience, having a connection with the company as well, and finding different ways to again, feel like you're a part of something bigger. And I think sometimes at JPMorgan Chase, right, when you're here like, oh, they have 250,000 employees worldwide, like how in the heck am I going to meet anyone, or how am I going to know what I'm doing? And this is why, again, the software engineer program was made and built to really make sure that you do feel like you know what you're doing and you have the opportunity to meet people. And like Molly said at the beginning, she's actually one of our co-leads for the software engineer program. So I kind of think of them as like our class presidents, right? They are the ones who lead the charge, and they really are putting on events and being creative and bringing the voice of the SEP program to the leadership to say, hey, we need access to this, or hey, we have these ideas, can we put them in place? So Molly, I would love if you could talk to us a little bit about some of the events and things that you are either putting on or that you've attended in the past through the SEP program that have kind of added to not just your day-to-day job, but added some more meaning and significance to it.
Yeah, so there's obviously the social events that are always fun, and there's always tons of those. Those are easy to put on. So things like we do game nights. We've done like a virtual scavenger hunt with a couple of different groups, which was a lot of fun. But there's also been some that have been more like work applicable. So probably the first event I attended was like my second day on the job. They had a React like seminar, I guess, where somebody was just going through what React is and like how React works and things like that. And we're continuing those into October this year. We just started a backup of just like technology workshops and like a place where you can go and talk to other 20-something-year-olds that don't have the 30-year experience that some of your coworkers have to kind of navigate different technologies that the firm uses. And things like we've done like benefit seminars. So we'll just get a group together to talk about like the benefits that JPMorgan has, because as a 20-something-year-old, your priorities for like high deductible versus low deductible are different than if you were like married with kids. And so it can be helpful to talk to other people your age just to kind of figure out what to do with the adulting part of having a job. So yeah, those are kind of the bigger events that comes to mind for me.
Awesome. I think it's great. I'm always so positive about it. It's all great. I really enjoy it. And that's again why I really like recruiting for this, because I don't want to tie my name to anything that I don't feel confident that I'm putting in a candidate or a student into, right? Because ultimately, you know that I'm the one who like sold you on it. So if you don't like it, you're coming back to me. So I don't want that, right? I want you to have a great experience, and I want you to come back and say, hey, I have a friend who would be awesome for this, right? So that's really the goal for me, is that I definitely will not sell something that I don't believe in, and I really do believe in this. But I guess another thing to kind of think about, right, is you're going to school for 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 in my case, right? If you're trying to work full time and go to school, who knows how long we're going to school for? But you're taking all these classes, right? And you have different classes that you're like, will I ever use this? Like, do I really need to know the Stobbs theory? Do we need to know it? I don't know. But different things, right, that you're going to be learning. And I think another piece that we wonder sometimes is, how is that theoretical knowledge or the information that you get from that textbook actually going to translate into a real full-time job? That part can feel a little confusing. So Sarah, I'm going to have you kind of talk about that, right? That transition from student to employee. Are the things that you're learning in class really going to work out for you? Maybe are they lessons learned that are transitioning over? But what would you think are some of the key takeaways that really helped you when you think about being in a student now compared to being in this professional role that maybe make sense? Or some of the things that you're like, listen, you totally don't need to know this. Like, this is what you need to focus on. Shed a little bit, let's like rip open the curtain, shed some light on that for us.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So I'm going to be as honest as possible. I would say that the entire preparations that like you do for your interview is not like what you're going to end up using on a day-to-day basis, which probably is a relief for most of you guys, because I remember I found the interview setting like very intense, and I was just glad to be done with it. So I would say one of the things that was the biggest difference from working in school versus at a job was the working in teams. Because typically in universities, like you would work on a team of max like 4 people for a project, but when you're going to come in for a career, it's going to be like a project that could have like 10 people on it, depending on how big the application is. So I think really focusing on how to interact with other people, build your network, and just how to work with other people is such a big plus that's going to come in handy when you are in your career, especially because when you're going to be new to a job, there's going to be a lot of things you don't know. So you have to be comfortable with reaching out for help, contacting other people, and just developing a good bond with everyone so that you enjoy work every day as well. Besides that, I would say I sometimes found myself here and there having to initially put in some time to catch up, not to catch up, but to have a smoother transition, because I had came from a C++ background, and learning more about the Angular and the front end development helped me. So sometimes on the weekends, like I would spend like a few hours looking up tutorials and getting more handy on whatever I had to use at work, and that helped out a lot with the transition.
Awesome. I love that. And you're right. Some of the questions that I see on our interview guides don't necessarily line up with what I think you guys are actually doing in real time, right? Sometimes it's going to be a little bit more theoretical, right? We want to understand that the way that you're thinking, are you logically thinking through your problems? Are you able to articulate that? Can you help someone understand where you went wrong so that your manager would be able to step in and guide you to that final solution, right? It's not always going to be you have to ace it every step of the way, because that's not going to be the case when you join your first team. It actually takes you about 6 months before you finally start to know what the heck is happening. And every company knows that, right? They have that grace period to help you grow and help you get acclimated to it. But I think one thing that does help you be successful in that regard, again, and kind of like we talked about, understanding your learning styles and sometimes being vulnerable and willing to just raise your hand and say, I have a question. I know we went over this yesterday, but I don't remember it, right? And being vulnerable to those conversations and allowing yourself to maybe sometimes be like, oh my gosh, it's a stupid question because I know we went over it, or everyone's gonna just like laugh at me because of this, but it's not the case, because somebody else probably has the exact same question that you have. So Molly, I'm going to call on you now and kind of go back to talk about, again, that transition from joining the team. Are there any moments that you remember of being like, oh my gosh, like we just went over this, or, oh, I'm about to give a presentation and or I'm about to show my screen, right? We're doing a review and something is happening where you need to be vulnerable in that moment and kind of ask for some help.
Yeah, definitely. That happens to me still. And I've been on the team for over a year now. For me, it's usually in the form of like in a team meeting, like 5 or 6 of us, we're talking about something. My manager is like rattling off all these things we're going to do. And I'm like trying to write it down. I'm a note taker. So I'm one of the writing people. I write everything down. And then later I'll ping one of my teammates and be like, look, I know she said this. It was English and I heard it, but I don't understand it. Like, do you know what's going on? And every single time I've done that with any of my teammates, actually, not just my favorite one to go to, they're always like, oh, absolutely. Like, this is what she was talking about. This is where it is. It's not a big deal. And it takes some to get used to it not being a big deal, but I can assure you it's not a big deal. It's good to ask questions.
You're right. It is not a big deal, and it is easy once you get over the hump of being willing to do it. But I think another thing that I'll kind of bring up, and we'll see too in the chat. Again, I don't see any questions in here yet for Molly or Sarah, so please feel free to throw those in if you have questions or you have some things that you're thinking about. But I do feel like in one topic that we're going to go ahead and bring up, maybe some of you have felt that way, and once we start talking about it, you can just say, hey, me too. But one thing that I hear sometimes from our college students, almost every student, is the idea of imposter syndrome. Are you ready to actually jump into an internship? I know I went to school for a few years, but am I actually ready to join a team? Are they going to think I'm a fraud? I don't know what I'm doing, right? Just like we mentioned, you're taking some classes and now all of a sudden you have to join a team that's been operating before you, right? With people who are older than you and more experienced. How do you fit in? How do you find your sense of belonging on a team, right? When you're doubting sometimes your skills or what you've brought to the table. So Sarah, I'm going to see, have you felt that in your career, whether it's on your team or any group projects? How did you feel about that? And how did you work through it?
Yeah, I think I definitely felt that in my internship before I joined the firm. So because I was learning a new technology that I had never learned before, I felt like I didn't know anything. And I was like, do I even belong? Like, Do I have the skills it takes to be a good developer? And now in my role, I found like different ways to combat that feeling. So one of the things I do is I always tell myself that my confidence or my lack of confidence in myself is just something that is limiting you. So when you understand that having that lack of confidence is holding you back, it definitely just gives you motivation to stop feeling like that and to believe in yourself more. And it would surprise me when my manager would refer to us as like strong Java developers. And I was like, are you sure you're talking about us? So I think just like hearing it from other people and then realizing that like, if they're saying it, then they're definitely saying it for a reason. And a lot of it is just in your head, especially like as a woman, I feel like we sometimes have like environmental factors that make us think that like, you know, we're not like good enough. So I'd say being aware of those feelings in your head is the first step. And then just trying to like tell yourself over and over again that like you are meant to be here. It will work, but it is a process, and it's not something that's going to change like instantly. So something you will continue to work on through your career, or something I continue to work on through my career. Yeah.
I think everybody continues to work on that. Honestly, I mean, I have been graduated out of university now for 10 years. And even when I got the job at JPMorgan, I was like, who let me in? Like, I can't believe they gave me a job. I tricked them all. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I came in and I easily was able to assimilate to the job and reminded myself about the skills that I did bring to the table and why they did find me to be the candidate, right, to represent our location and make those relationships, right, with students and business leaders. And I think sometimes you have to get into it and dive in heads first, and then you start to remember like, oh yeah, I am pretty good at doing this. I am pretty good at this. And so the more that you feel confidence, and shout out to a few of the ladies here in this, Tiffany said I tricked everyone. Yeah, that's how I feel too. And then Gianluca said confidence, right? Bringing that confidence to the table, remembering, right, that you do deserve to be there. And I can tell you too, from the recruiter seat, I don't just give offers away, right? If you're in this program, it's because you earned it. If you got that internship offer, it's because you earned it. You showed us the skills that we want to be able to see. Now, maybe sometimes you're going to be on a team with people who are stronger than you. Maybe they just love to code on the weekend for fun, and that's really all they want to do. So they might feel really fluent in some different languages or tech stacks that you don't know, but there's also going to be strengths that you bring to the table that somebody else might not. And I'm actually going to call on Molly here, because I think one strength that she brings to the table is, if I remember correctly from a while ago, you were a student athlete, weren't you? Which I feel like is something in itself to show, right? That teamwork, that motivation, the drive and the develop to kind of be a little competitive in a way. Tell me about any lessons that maybe you've seen from, right, being in sports that have maybe translated well into your career.
Sure. Yeah. So I was on the Northwestern team all 4 years of university, and that was so much fun. I miss the girls so much. And what that's really helped me in the work setting is honestly things like communication, obviously, but even like conflict resolution and like how to take feedback. Because like when you're being coached, obviously you get that all the time. Your manager is going to do the same thing. She'll be like, you should do this a little different, you should do this a little different. And so I think sports really helped me with like the soft skills of talking to people in and around me. And if you're not a sports person, you can get that through teamwork, like team projects, like Sarah was talking about earlier. Yeah.
That's great. I started to put you on the spot with that one. I do remember, like, when you first started, you mentioned that you were in sports, and I thought that's so great, because most of the times I see sometimes that a candidate's passion is a little bit more right in front of the computer or behind the screen. And that's why I'm saying your skills will pull forward with you. So some of our students are right, the employees in the SEP program who maybe never were part of sports, Those are huge strengths that Molly's bringing to the table and able to share and shine and show, which also kind of shows why she's like class president, right? Leading the team, leading this whole group. I think our new SEP community is about like 120 people. And she's kind of the face of that with one other person, taking everybody's opinions and ideas and trying to really push the program forward. So again, it's not a one size fits all. It's definitely a lot of different backgrounds that come to the table. I know that we'll have a time shortly here to kind of ask some questions on, and I keep saying the name wrong. I keep saying it's Slido. I think it's Slido, that's what it is. So make sure, just like they called out, don't forget to ask your questions on there. And we'll come back here in about 5 minutes to answer some of those. And I guess like kind of last things as we finish this off a little bit of like your experience, your career. If we could go back and talk about, and I'll preface this too. I know we said it's a day in the life, and this really is a day in the life of our engineers, but I wanted to peel back the curtain and give you like an honest day in the life, not just I code because they code, right? Not just I'm an engineer because they are engineers, but they're unique and they're individuals and they have their own story, right? And it's not a one size fits all. And you're gonna you're gonna meet engineers all the time, and you guys can talk tech and you can do that in class too. But what I really wanted you to hear, again, is the day in the life of what it feels like in their experience and their life story, right? Because that's sometimes at the end of the day, it's about that human to human connection. It's not always just about ones and zeros, right? We need to make sure that we bring it back. So Sarah, if we can go ahead, I'm gonna have you give yourself some words of wisdom, right? What would you say to little Sarah, who was nervous and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Nothing is gonna line up right. Now thinking back on it, right? You're living the dream. Little Sarah would be like, oh my gosh, you did it. Look at you, you're an engineer and your manager thinks you're strong in Java. What would you tell yourself, right? What you know now to kind of motivate yourself and get you right through that last year, the last 2 years? I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I would just tell myself to stop doubting myself. There's nothing to worry about. And the fact that like you can make it through college, get through all those all-nighters, like work on programs, and be successful in school is definitely a sign that you can make it as a career. And in fact, I would tell myself that working is easier than managing college, or the work-life balance that I was putting up with in college. So I tell myself it's going to get better, and the work that you're putting into, like in school, it's going to be worth it. So yeah, I definitely feel so much better now that I'm working and I know how it's like. So just that confidence overall.
Awesome. When you're in school, everything is the worst. And I think a part of that is because you have so much freedom and flexibility to study whenever you would like, or you push it off. But in the real work life, you can't push it off until 3 a.m. So you do get sleep and you do learn to prioritize. So it does make it a little easier because you know you're going to be working within set hours. And then after that, all of that time is yours to live your life, to do your hobbies, and to find the things that you would like. So just like she said, it does get better, but it's going to get a little worse before it gets better. You got to get through midterms, right? Then you got to get through finals, and then the pandemic, right? A few more things to get through, but it will get better. Molly, let's go ahead. What would you tell your little self, little Molly, who's thinking like, oh my gosh, what is happening? What would you tell her?
Yeah, so in short terms, that there are no bad decisions. Like I've learned this over like many, many years between like soccer and deciding where to go to college and deciding where to work, deciding where to live. There are no bad decisions, because even if you decide to do something and then a year down the line, you're like, look, I'm not happy. At least now you know that you don't want to be a DBA, and you know that you don't want to be a mechanic for life. There are no bad decisions. And so as much as you want to make the most educated decision you can at any point in life. Just know that like once you decide, stick with it no matter what. It was a good decision because you made the decision and you stuck with it.
Awesome. I love that. All right, I am gonna find out quickly, do we have any Slido? So I'm gonna learn it by the time this is done. Do we have any Slido questions, ladies? Want to see Stephanie, Tiffany? Do we have any questions on there? And then shout out to everybody on YouTube. Make sure you're putting in your questions so we have some things that we can talk about.
Yeah, so on Slido, we actually have a couple. So Edward asks, do you get hired after the 2-year program ends?
Great question. So let me kind of go back to that. You're a full-time employee to join the software engineer program. So the program itself is set up so that you have 2 years officially in your like safe space bubble, right? Where you have your community and we do different events to like fun different events. Like Molly said, we have escape rooms and we're doing like a t-shirt contest and we have professional development groups. So things that are related as they pertain right to the actual SEP program for those 2 years. And then after that, you officially, well, if you perform well, you will get promoted into your next level up. And then you get to kind of be a mentor and you get to see the new class of SEP. You can choose to stay involved and do different like technical trainings, mentor incoming interns or people who are joining the software engineer program. And then you can take part in interviewing interns and being part of our Code for Good hackathon and other events like that. But yeah, the actual SEP program, you're just a full-time JPMorgan Chase employee. And once you're done with that, you can either look for a new job or like roll internally, or you can stay on the same team. Really kind of up to you on what you would like to do. But yes, full-time employee in the program. Great question. Next question.
Okay, so someone asks, could you talk a little bit about a project that you are working on currently?
Yeah, let's go ahead and have Sarah talk first and then Molly, hop on over.
Okay, sure. So one project I'm working on now, I've been working on this for a while, is part of a lien release. So basically, in Chase, like when people pay off their mortgages, it's our responsibility to release a lien. So we're kind of automating that process and creating a tool for our internal employees to use. So what I do is end-to-end development. So that literally means from pulling the data from the database, getting those SQL queries, writing the service, doing the UI work. So how the page looks, like all that, and then the functionality behind that. So in Angular, like all that functionality is typically in like TypeScript files where we call those services. So I probably, when I got into this position, probably knew like 20% of what I know right now. So I've gained like so much knowledge doing end-to-end development. And if anyone's thinking of web development, I absolutely love it. And I think a really good perk about it is that it's very applicable. So it's a skill that's going to be very transferable. And a lot of the teams in Chase and JPMorgan, they use web development skills. So it's been a really great learning experience.
Cool. I'll go ahead and speak about my team. So like I said, I'm in CIB, which is investment banking line of business. And my application specifically, we help mutual funds basically pay their bills. That's the easy way to say it. They send us invoices. So we've got a lot of like data processing in terms of storing things into our database, as well as like a bunch of calculations. And we have services running in the background that kind of help price mutual funds as part of our team. It's complicated, but some things that I've been working on recently is like I created a whole new .NET Core service that basically, again, like consumes a file from a different JPMorgan team, puts that information into our database so that our front end can like display essentially. But something else that's pretty cool I've been working on is we're going through a tech refresh, which is like we are moving our servers. We're getting a whole slew of new servers and we have to test connectivity in terms of like going from the old servers to the new servers. And so it's kind of like networking and ports and making sure everything is hooked together correctly so that when we switch to these new servers, we don't break production.
Now, I have a question for you to go off of that. You're talking about mortgage services, right? Both of you have some very like businessy terms. Did you feel like you needed to know finance or business going into it? Molly, did you know about what you're doing, or did you learn all that on the job?
We'll say 95% I learned on the job. I knew about the stock market and I was like, yeah, I know that people can like go in and trade things. I understand that mutual funds are a security that is potentially someone can buy into, but beyond that, like nothing. And now I know about like mutual fund structures and like all the different things that they have to worry about as managers of mutual funds. And it's just like, you did not need to know finance to work here.
Awesome. All right, what other kind of questions do we have?
Okay, so Blaine asks, if you had to describe the JPMorgan culture in one word, what would it be?
Tricky question. What do you think? I'll let one of you answer first while I think about my answer.
I can go ahead and say that if I would put it into one word, it would be welcoming. And I think part of it is that like Southern hospitality, like coming from California, I was like blown away with how nice people were in Texas. So coming into like a new team, I wasn't expected to be like welcomed by like everyone. So it was a lot of positive vibes that I got from the culture there.
I'm going to have to agree with Sarah. My word would have been positive. That just like everybody is very happy that you're there. They're happy to be there. They're happy to help you with problems. They're happy to answer questions. It's all just very like, I don't know. Positive is the best word I've got. Yeah.
Awesome. I think the word that I would use, right, if I had to push it into one, would be diverse. And not diverse in like the whole like diversity and inclusion way of thought, but diverse in the fact that we have like a Starbucks on site. And anytime I go into that Starbucks, it feels like I'm just anywhere else in the world, right? The Starbucks on site is closed just for JPMorgan employees. It's the only people who are in there. However, when I go in, I see people in suits. I see engineers in jeans. I see black, white, brown, red. I see shaved heads. I see pink hair. I see blue hair. We have one of our steps who has a septum pierced, right? And I asked him once about that, and I was like, I think Sarah might even have hers done too. I had asked if he'd ever gotten any like pushback on that, right? Being in this bank, right? This stuffy bank. Has anyone said anything? And he's like, honestly, not good or bad. Like everyone just kind of ignores it. And he was like, I never even thought about that like nobody said it. Same thing, like some people with tattoo sleeves. You just see everything, which makes it normal, right? It's diverse, but in a way that's just normal and what you would expect to see walking anywhere. So I think that probably would be my word, is that it's just, everything is like so diverse that it just feels normal. That's a good one, Blaine. Good one. That's a good one. All right, what else do we have?
Okay, so Blaine asks again, a question for Molly, actually. How did you get into your leadership role for SEP?
Great question. So we actually have like elections, that's the weird word, but around like April, I want to say last year, it was basically like the previous leads who were 2018 SEPs. They were like, hey guys, like let us know if you're interested in being a lead. And then my co-part Malia and I both volunteered, and it was just that easy. And if there were more than just the two of us volunteering, we would have had true elections, which is what our subcommittees do. So there's Jessica, who's amazing. And then there's Malia and I, and then there's like 5 subgroups that do on different events, like social events, the professional development type things, technical events, and they all have leads within themselves as well. So it's kind of a hierarchy that we've got going.
Awesome. Blaine coming hard with the questions. I'm loving it. Any other questions?
We have one more.
Okay.
So they ask, as someone without a concentration for their CS degree right now, how did you decide on a concentration, and how do you apply it to your current job now?
And did either of you have a concentration, or did you get a BS in computer science without a concentration?
Yeah, Northwestern didn't actually have concentrations. So I just have a BS in CS like in general. And so I took classes in like every quarter was a different language, which was A, annoying, but B, probably good because you never know what you're going to work in later. I think for deciding on, we'll just say like a direction within CS, I would say you just have to try it because you're honestly not going to know until you get your feet wet with it. Like I took a database class and in that database class, obviously learned a lot about SQL and like management studios and things like that. I was like, I do not want to do a DBA. Like, I don't want to write SQL as my life. I'm not about it, not for it. So yeah, it was just more like trial and error for me.
Yeah, I would totally agree with Molly. I think it's a lot of putting in effort to get to know yourself and what you like. And do that like early on, like do that in school, take all these different classes, because when you first start to work, I think it's easy to start to get into like a hole. Like once you start into like web development for your next job, they're going to say, what did you do last? And it's going to be like, it's going to kind of like continue on. Not to like say that it can't change, but in like college, like you figure out like, okay, like I definitely don't like computer networks or whatever. So if you don't have a concentration, what I kind of would give advice to is to go off of, or when you choose your first job, maybe do something that you're more knowledgeable in. So that's why I chose web development, because the transition and learning a lot, starting from something that you don't know anything in, can be a little bit tough.
That's great. And I'll say this too, like in college, you're like, oh, I have a minor in this and it's gonna really push my career forward. It's definitely not the case. The biggest accomplishment, right, is getting the degree and that experience behind it. But no one's ever going to ask outside of the first job, like, oh, what did you minor in? It's more like, did you graduate? What was your degree in? And what are you doing now? And I think that conversation does start to turn. So if you're worried about, right, a concentration or what to specialize in, again, I wouldn't even say too, if you specialize in something that now all of a sudden that's the only thing that you can do. Because if you specialize in it and then you're like, hey, this is like really limiting, or like I did this, but now I'm not able to break into another area and I want to keep growing. You can always, right, highlight the other projects that you did outside of your specialization and try to open the door. So it's great, right, if you know exactly what you want. I know cybersecurity, huge thing here, right, in terms of that specialization at the school. But if you think like, hey, this is great, but I might want to just like try some other things too, absolutely available. Don't, again, pigeonhole yourself sometimes with only one thing that you would like to do. Because I think sometimes our senior leaders, when we have them speak, they joke that 20 years ago, the cloud was just something that like rained on you, right? And when they were in school, they would have never imagined that they would be working in the cloud, right? And that you have to be open to how technology is moving, because if you're not willing to move with it, you're going to be left behind, right? So if you even think about that, just how fast things change and what's cool right now is probably not going to be cool in 5 years, right? Something even better is going to come out. So again, just keeping yourself flexible and open to new opportunities is really going to help you stay kind of at the forefront. So great question. Stephanie, any last ones come in, or are we all good with our preset questions?
Those are actually all the questions.
Awesome. All right, looks like we have 1 minute left, so we're doing great on the time. So I will say too, I saw that we were sharing a slide before. We are still hiring. We have internship positions. We have full-time positions, especially within our Plano, Texas location, again, which is just in North Dallas. I know Texas sometimes likes to stay in Texas, and I love that. So please note that we do have those positions available. I'll send over some of the links too, so the group can send those out in case you're interested. also, right, you feel free to link in with us if you have questions or you want to know a little bit more about our experience and take this outside of just this conversation. Absolutely can do that. I promise they don't bite, I don't bite, we're all very nice, and happy to kind of carry on that conversation. Let's see, what else can I share? In terms of internship, kind of last bits of knowledge, it is a summer internship. It does last for 10 weeks. It is paid. It's not an unpaid internship. And also too, the goal of the internship really is kind of to pipeline that into the software engineer program. So I think sometimes internships, they might just give you an experience, but not really the idea of something to go into next. But that our interns are the first people that we would consider for the software engineer program. So it definitely pays off to be an intern. But it also is okay if you're not, because Sarah and Molly came outside of the internship program. So I don't want to make it sound like it's not the case. So again, please feel free to let us know if you guys have any questions. I want to thank you again for spending your evening with us. I hope you either got something delivered with DoorDash, or again, don't forget with DoorDash, you can go pick it up too, so that way you don't have like the $100 million of fees. And I want to super huge thank you to Sarah and Molly, for being just badass, right? They're awesome. But also for spending their time, sharing their story and being here with you. It doesn't take much to just get, again, over that hump and to be right where they are. They're amazing. So keep on going. And then thank you to Stephanie and Tiffany for having us. I appreciate everyone's time.
Okay, sorry, they got me a little confused for my Zoom thing and I couldn't find my mute button. Okay, thank you, Jessica, for coming and helping us put this together. Thanks, Molly and Sarah, for spending time and coming out and chatting with us and letting us and our members know a little bit more about how you guys got involved and everything like that. So I just wanted to quickly mention that our meeting is happening our next meeting is happening on October 20th at 5:15 p.m. I'm going to leave this slide on for just a bit, and just to build off of the question that Jessica and Molly and Sarah answered earlier about the concentration. I don't know if anyone else knows about this, but I recently found out about this for the CS department. If you're going for a CS major, you don't actually have to get a concentration. You don't have to put that on paper at all. You can technically just go ahead and take all your upper division courses and take any course in like software engineering or data science and build off of that. You don't have to have a concentration. So take that, think about it, meditate on it, do what you will with it. Ask your advisor, reach out to the undergrad advisor, Dr. Korkmaz, or chat with me. I'm available most of the time. So that is all. I think we are 3 minutes over, so I think we did really well. I really enjoyed this meeting. Thanks again, Jessica, Sarah, and Molly for coming out and doing this.
And don't forget to sign in.
Thank you.